The African savanna was drenched in golden light as the sun prepared to sink below the horizon. The land stretched endlessly, a sea of tall grass swaying gently under the breeze, dotted by acacia trees that stood like guardians of the wild. Animals moved about in peaceful rhythm, zebras grazing in tight clusters, wildebeest meandering slowly toward the watering holes, and elephants dusting themselves with dry earth in the distance. Among this grand orchestra of life stood a solitary giraffe, towering above the landscape with her long, elegant neck reaching for the highest branches in acacia. She chewed slowly, her calm demeanor reflecting the serenity of the plain. To her, this was just another evening of quiet feeding, unaware that something ancient and sinister was lurking nearby. Beneath a cluster of thorn bushes, an enormous python lay coiled, its camouflaged body blending perfectly with the shadows of the earth. This serpent was no ordinary predator. It was a monstrous relic of nature's darkest designs. Thicker than a man's torso and longer than a jeep, its scales shimmering faintly in the dimming light. For hours, it had watched the giraffe with patient hunger, calculating every movement, waiting for the moment when distance and vigilance failed. While lions rely on ferocity and speed, pythons rely on silence, stealth, and overwhelming strength. Tonight, the serpent's hunger would challenge the savanna's balance. The giraffe bent her neck, plucking another mouthful of leaves, her large eyes glancing lazily over the plain. She sensed no danger, but in the stillness of dusk, the python stirred, sliding forward with silent menace. Its massive coils moved like liquid shadows, every muscle rippling with predatory intent. Suddenly, with terrifying speed, it lunged, its body surging upward to wrap around the giraffe's legs. The peaceful plain erupted into chaos. Birds screeched from trees, antelope bolted in terror, and the giraffe let out a cry so loud it echoed across the savanna, like a call for help. Her legs thrashed, her long neck swung violently, but the python's power was merciless. With every loop, it crushed harder, suffocating her strength. The serene evening had turned into a nightmare, and life itself trembled in the grip of a predator that had ruled the earth since ancient times. The giraffe's cries rose and fell like thunder, piercing the evening air as her slender frame buckled under the python's relentless coils. Dust exploded around her hooves as she stumbled, kicking desperately at the ground in a futile attempt to shake free. The python hissed, its tongue flicking in and out, tasting her terror. Its coils tightened like living chains, each contraction squeezing the breath from her lungs. The serpent was in its element. No rush, no mercy, just a slow and inevitable victory of suffocation. The giraffe's chest heaved, her breast ragged and shallow, her wide eyes reflecting the terror an animal caught in a trap older than time itself. She swung her long neck violently, striking against the serpent's body, but the python absorbed the blows as though they were nothing. With every second, its grip grew tighter, its immense muscles rippling with unbreakable force. From a distance, other animals watched in frozen fear. Zebras whinnied and bolted farther into the plains. Birds exploded from the treetops, scattering in panicked flocks. Even the elephants raised their trunks, trumpeting uneasily at the sound of struggle. The savanna had become a stage of violence and despair, and the giraffe was at its center, caught in a battle she could not win alone. Her legs weakened, buckling beneath her as the serpent coiled higher, wrapping across her chest. Each movement squeezed the life from her, pressing bone against bone, crushing muscle and air. Her once regal frame now looked fragile, shaking violently as she tried to stay upright. Her cries grew weaker, broken by gasps. Yet, across the vast plain, her desperate voice carried, traveling farther than she could imagine. At a small outpost nearby, human ears caught the sound. A rescue team,
Yes, I did.
trained to respond to emergencies in the wilderness, heard the cries echo through the dusk. They had rushed to the aid of drowning elephants, orphan calves, and poachers trapped before, but never had they faced a monster of this scale. Without hesitation, they readied themselves, gathering ropes, poles, and courage. The giraffe was not just another animal. She was a symbol of the wild, and her life was worth risking their own. The python had chosen its prey, but fate had chosen the battlefield. The jeep roared across the plain, kicking up trails of dust that glowed in the fading sunlight. Commander Rafik, a seasoned leader hardened by countless battles with nature, gripped the wheel tightly. His eyes narrowed as the sound of the giraffe's cries grew louder, closer. Beside him sat Amina, the team's medic, clutching her pack of supplies, her face pale but determined. In the back were Malik and Kareem, strong villagers armed with ropes, poles, and machetes, the simple tools of ordinary men willing to do extraordinary things. As they crested a ridge, the horrific sight came into view. The giraffe staggering under the python's crushing coils, her body half collapsed, her neck swinging in desperation. The serpent glistened in the dying light, its monstrous body wrapped high around her torso, squeezing with deadly rhythm. For a moment, silence gripped the jeep. Even the bravest of them had never imagined a battle so grotesque, so desperate. But hesitation had no place here. Rafiq slammed the brakes, leapt from the jeep, and barked orders. Ropes ready. Keep its head distracted. Don't let it tighten again. The team scattered, every heartbeat carrying the weight of life and death. Malik and Kareem unfurled the ropes, their eyes fixed on the serpent's thickest coils. Amina prepared tranquilizers and bandages, her hands shaking but steady enough to act when the moment came. The giraffe's eyes rolled toward them, wide and pleading, as though she understood salvation had arrived. Dust swirled in the air, carrying with it the weight of destiny. The humans were small, fragile compared to the beast, but their courage burned brighter than fear. With the Savanna as their witness, they charged into battle, ordinary men and women standing against an ancient monster that had ruled unchallenged for centuries. The python sensed the threat instantly. Its head snapped up, eyes blazing like burning coals, tongue flicking rapidly in fury. With a hiss that shook the air, it lunged toward Malik, jaws snapping shut inches from his chest. He dove aside, rolling in the dust, as the serpent struck again, this time smashing its fangs into the earth with bone-crushing force. Kareem swung his pole with all his strength, striking the python's side in a sharp crack. The serpent recoiled but did not relent, its body tightening once more around the giraffe, who let out a strangled cry. The team shouted to each other through the storm of dust, their voices nearly drowned by the chaos. Rafiq hurled a rope, managing to loop it across one of the coils. Together, he and Kareem pulled with raw determination, muscles burning as the python writhed violently. The serpent's tail lashed out like a whip, catching Malik in the chest and flinging him backward. He hit the ground hard, gasping for air. Amina raced to his side, kneeling in the dirt, but her eyes stayed locked on the giraffe.
Pull!
"Don't
now.
stop," she screamed. "If we give up now, she dies." The python, furious at the interference, shifted its coils tighter, its monstrous strength nearly crushing the giraffe's ribs. The ground shook as the massive creature thrashed, dust blinding the rescuers, but still they fought, refusing to let go. Man versus beast, strength versus strategy, survival versus sacrifice. The plain became a battlefield unlike any the Savanna had ever seen. For agonizing minutes, the battle raged with no sign of victory. The giraffe's legs buckled, her breath shallow, her cries fading into weak whimpers. The serpent seemed invincible, every coil like iron, every strike impossibly fast.
Hold it steady.
But Rafiq's sharp eyes searched for opportunity. He saw it. The python's focus was split between crushing the giraffe and striking at the humans.
I'm almost there.
That weakness was their chance. But Rafiq's sharp eyes searched for opportunity. He saw it. The python's focus was split between crushing the giraffe and striking at the humans. That weakness was their chance. The coils shifted slightly, loosening just enough for the giraffe to draw a broken gasp of air. Rafiq seized the moment, charging forward, machete gleaming. He slashed across the serpent's snout. Blood splattered as the python recoiled, hissing in pain. Again, he struck, driving the blade across its scales, forcing its head downward. The serpent writhed, its body rippling with fury, but for the first time it faltered. The giraffe staggered, sucking in desperate breaths. Amina's voice rang out, urging them to keep going. The humans pulled, slashed, and shouted, their courage outweighing their fear. Inch by inch, the coils began to loosen, hope sparking to the dust-choked battlefield. The python unleashed its last, most violent fury. Its tail whipped like a club, smashing into the jeep and flipping it onto its side with a thunderous crash. The team was nearly thrown off balance, but desperation anchored them. The giraffe, weakened but still alive, lashed out with her long legs, one powerful kick connecting with the serpent's body. The crack echoed, and the python hissed in pain, its grip faltering further.
Fight,
Now,
men!
pull with everything.
Hold the line!
Rafik roared. Malik and Kareem strained until their muscles screamed, dragging the coils apart. Dust stung their eyes, sweat soaked their clothes, and pain tore through their bodies, but still they pulled. The giraffe stumbled forward, her body half-free, hooves crashing into ground as she pushed against the remaining coils. With one last coordinated effort, the team yanked the serpent backward, tearing its body from around her chest. The giraffe collapsed onto her knees, wheezing desperately but no longer crushed. The python thrashed wildly, striking in blind rage, but Rafik leapt forward, machete raised high. With a final roar, he brought it down across the serpent's head. The beast convulsed, hissing one last time before retreating into the tall grass, its massive body disappearing like a nightmare slipping back into the shadows. Silence followed, silence filled with exhaustion, relief, and a heartbeat of victory. The battlefield lay quiet beneath the night sky, stars beginning to glitter above the savanna. The giraffe, though wounded and exhausted, slowly rose to her feet, her long neck stretching again toward the heavens. Her eyes, once wide with terror, now held a faint spark of survival. Amina rushed to her side, checking her for cuts and bruises, whispering with relief, "She will live." Malik and Kareem collapsed on the ground, chests heaving, their bodies bruised and battered but alive. Rafik stood tall, blood and dust streaking his face, his machete still clutched in his hand. He looked across the plain, where zebras and wildebeest cautiously reemerged, and birds circled back to their roosts. Nature was breathing again. Word of their battle would echo across villages, carried by storytellers around campfires, passed down as a legend of courage and unity. They had not only saved a life, they had preserved hope, the idea that even against the fiercest monsters, humanity's courage could prevail. They knew they had faced death itself and refused to surrender. And in that timeless savanna, beneath the watchful gaze of the stars, a legend was born. The night when courage rose against the coils of darkness and life triumphed over death.